So people often ask me, is it too late to start a podcast? You know, maybe you're looking to launch a podcast for business purposes, or maybe you just want a slice of the action. And have people told you, don't start a podcast because it's too late? It's too late to make a success of your podcast. It's too late to grow its popularity, or maybe there are just too many other podcasts out there. Well, if these things worry you and maybe don't know where to start, stay tuned because we've got all of that and more coming right up. Stay right there. So here's the thing, podcasting isn't exactly a new medium. It's been around for probably 15 years now, since about 2004, 2005 is when podcasts first came around. Obviously since then things have changed a lot. Back then you had to download a file to your computer, transfer it to your iPod, and that process was kind of pretty confusing for a lot of people, and therefore they didn't get huge momentum in the early days. But I'd say in the past 2-3 years it has seen massive growth, and this is really exciting because the market is growing, but also the technology is now really starting to grow with it, because people can access podcasts pretty much on the go from anywhere due to higher availability of iPhones and data plans and things like that, which just didn't exist 10 years ago. And 7.1 million people in the UK are actually listening to podcasts each week, and get this, a staggering 144 million Americans are now tuning in. So there is huge demand for podcasts from consumers, and plenty of the tech giants are catching on to their popularity, which is spurring further growth and a lot more momentum. Basically, we're kind of at this golden era of podcasting at the moment, and there's actually a huge opportunity for you right now. So don't listen to those people who are saying, nah, it's too late to start a podcast, because we're really just getting started. If you look at Google and Spotify and Pandora, these guys are huge technology giants, and they've all invested significant amounts of money into the podcasting ecosystem, so integrating podcasts onto their platforms. So for example, Google have just started listing podcasts as part of their organic search results, meaning if you Google a term and there's a podcast that's relevant to that term, the podcast will actually show up. And there's also other cool technology. So for example, AI transcription. So people can actually search for content that is contained within your podcast, meaning that yes, it's an audio file, but the clever guys at Google have figured out a way of turning that audio into text using AI, which means you can actually search for key terms contained within a podcast, which just means that this stuff's going to get better and better. And what this does is it helps established podcasts expand their audience even further, but also it helps new podcasts get discovered in lightning speed, because you're not just relying on people to search for your podcast anymore. They will actually discover your podcast based on topics or information they are looking for, which might be, say, contained within one of the episodes. And Google opening search up to podcasts is big news, but not just Google. People like Spotify have started integrating and innovating, and Apple as well have added text search to their platform. So there's lots of opportunity here to capture new audiences. So I think this is an incredibly exciting time for podcasting and getting started, or if you're thinking about launching a podcast. And here's why. So if you think about it, if you look at the early 2010s, so maybe around 2011, 2012, 2013, platforms like Instagram and Facebook weren't exactly brand new. Certainly Facebook had been around for some years at this point. This was a golden era for Facebook pages, for example, and there was loads of media and publishing brands that were born out of this opportunity. I'm talking about people like Huffington Post, BuzzFeed, and LadBible, and they grew massively during this time because they took advantage whilst they could. Nowadays it's quite difficult to grow on those platforms because you have to spend money to get organic reach. But if you think about podcasting, there's no way to currently promote podcasts by spending money. So everyone gets a fair share of the audience, which is really exciting, and it gives you tremendous opportunity to grow. What I'm saying here is there is still plenty of opportunity to get cut through, and here's why. There is still more demand than supply. And what I mean by this is there are still vastly more people trying to listen to podcasts than there are people creating them. So this means there are more people tuning in, they're relying on a small group of content providers or a pool of publishers or whatever you want to call it, but the demand for content is currently through the roof. And because of all of this investment by these big tech companies, the demand is only just continuing to grow and grow and grow. So that is the reason that I believe it is most definitely not too late to start a podcast. So my name's James Mulvaney and I'm actually founder of podcast.co. We help people get online with their podcast ideas. If you're thinking about starting a podcast, I actually wrote a book called Read This If You Want to Start a Podcast, and it contains absolutely everything you need to launch and grow your podcast. Tells you how to go about recording it, editing it, how to go and then start building your audience. It's a really straightforward and simple guide. And I've also got an online course which you can check out. If you go to podcast.co/crash course, you can sign up and begin learning to start your podcast right away. It doesn't cost you anything at all. Thanks very much for watching this video. If you've got any comments, please leave them below. If you've got questions on how to start your podcast, or maybe you've got an idea and you're not sure that it's the right route to take, I'd love to get involved with some discussion, so please leave your comments below. Please remember as well, if you like this video, to subscribe to my channel. I'm posting lots of videos like this on a regular basis around the area of podcasting and audience growth. Have a great day, and I'll speak to you soon. Take it easy. Hey, wait, before you go, perhaps you're looking to start a podcast for your business. And did you know that most businesses make the same exact mistakes? Whenever we work with clients who are struggling to get their podcast off the ground, or they're not getting the traction that they deserve, it turns out that most of the time they're making the same mistakes. So what I've done is I've compiled a guide which is called the 5-Step Business Podcast Checklist, which will show you exactly what you need to know to get your podcast up and running without making the same mistakes that most other people do. So you can download it for free at jamesm.com/podcast. That's jamesm.com/podcast. Go and grab your copy today.